Greetings and salutations. I am going to read a bit of the beginning of Greek mythology. Father Sky and Mother Earth. In the time before time began, there was only Gaia, the beautiful Earth, and her husband Uranus, the sky. Uranus loved Gaia so much that he wrapped his great black cloak of twinkling stars about her and danced her all around the heavens. Soon they had 12 beautiful children, called the Titans, who became the first gods and goddesses. But then lovely Gaia gave birth to more children, and they were not beautiful at all. Uranus hated the ugly one-eyed Cyclops as soon as he saw them, and when he was shown the hideous 100-armed monsters that came next, he roared with rage and locked them all up in the dreadful land of Tartarus, which lay deep in the depths of the underworld. Gaia was very angry, because she loved all her children, whatever they looked like, and she vowed to punish Uranus. She gave a magic stone sickle to Cronus, her youngest son, and sent him to fight his powerful father. Cronus was dreadfully frightened, but he loved his mother and always obeyed her. So he hid in a fold of his father's cloak and waited till Uranus was not looking. Then Cronus gave Uranus such a great wound with the sickle that Uranus fled into the furthest part of the heavens and never returned. Then Gaia married Pontus, the sea, who covered her with his beautiful rainbow waters, and as a sign of her love for him, she gave birth to the trees and flowers, and beasts and birds, and every kind of creature, including people. And for many, many moons, there was peace and harmony in every part of the earth. Cronus now ruled over all that was, and soon he married Rhea, the most beautiful of all the Titans. But he always remembered what he had done to his father Uranus, and he was frightened that one of his own children might do the same to him. So as each child was born, he opened his enormous mouth wide, 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 and swallowed it in one big gulp. Rhea was very sad that she could never see her children, and she tried to persuade Cronus to let her keep just one. But Cronus just shook his head and patted his big belly. "They're quite safe in here, my dear," he boomed. "I can feel them all wriggling around." Rhea decided to ask Gaia for advice. "When the next child is born, you must play a trick on Cronus," said Gaia. "You must get an enormous stone and wrap it up just like a baby. Keep it beside you, and when Cronus asks you for the child, give him the stone instead and hide the real baby somewhere safe." So that is just what Rhea did. She took the child, whom she had named Zeus, to a cave on Mount Ida. Then she summoned some noisy sprites and told them to play loud music around the cave mouth so that Cronus wouldn't hear Zeus when he cried. Cronus never noticed a thing. The baby gods and goddesses inside him grew and grew and kicked to get out. They used the heavy stone which Rhea had made him swallow as a football inside his tummy, and this made Cronus very cross and uncomfortable as he strode about his business across the heavens and around the earth, and the rumbles his stomach made because of it were the first thunder ever heard. Rhea sent a magical goat called Amalithea and some of her favorite nymphs to look after baby Zeus in the cave on Mount Ida. Amalthea's milk, which tasted of ambrosia and nectar, made him strong and tall in no time at all, and soon he was as powerful as his great father Cronus. When Amalthea died, he gave her home to the nymphs to thank them for looking after him so well. They were magic horns of plenty, and whatever food or drink you wished for would pour out of them as soon as you asked for it. Zeus made Amalthea's skin into magic armor, which nothing could pierce, and strode out into the world. Rhea sent him a wife called Metis, who was very wise. Metis told Zeus that he mustn't attack his father until he had some powerful friends to help him, and she knew just how to get them for him by a clever trick. Zeus hid behind a tree while Metis dressed up as an old herb woman and waited by the side of the road till Cronus went past. "Try my herbs of power," she croaked. "Never be defeated. Overcome all your enemies." Cronus was very interested, for lately he had suspected that Rhea was plotting against him. "I'll take some," he said, and soon he had swallowed down a big bottle of disgusting green liquid. It was extremely bitter and tasted horrid. All of a sudden he began to feel sick. Then he was very sick indeed. Zeus and Metis watched as first a great stone, and then all 5 of Cronus's other children came up one by one out of his wide, wide mouth. Zeus ran out from behind his tree to join Hades and Poseidon, Hestia, Demeter, and Hera, who were all furious with Cronus for trapping them for so long. Cronus took one look at their angry faces and ran away, leaving his powers behind him on the road. Zeus picked them up and put them in his pocket. "Now I am Lord of the universe," he boomed, and all the world heard him and shivered at his powerful voice. The 3 gifts. Now that Zeus had picked up his father Cronus's powers, he was the king of heaven and earth and everywhere in between. But even Zeus was not strong enough to look after the universe all by himself. He called his brothers to a meeting. "I can't rule the universe properly unless you help me," he said, taking off his helmet. "Why don't we share it out between us?" Hades and Poseidon agreed, and so into the helmet Zeus put a sapphire for the earth and sky, a turquoise for the sea, and a ruby for the underworld. Since Zeus was the most powerful, he closed his eyes and picked first. Out came the sapphire. Poseidon picked the turquoise and Hades the ruby. That was how the division of the universe was decided. But the Titans, who were Zeus's uncles and aunts, did not like this at all. They thought that they should have a share in ruling things, so they raised an army to fight Zeus and his brothers. Zeus immediately freed the Cyclops and the 100-armed monsters that his grandfather had imprisoned in Tartarus to help him. The Cyclops were so grateful that they made presents for the brothers. For Poseidon they made a trident, which could cause earthquakes and tidal waves. For Hades they made a helmet of darkness, so that he could sneak up on his enemies without being seen. And for Zeus, they made thunder and lightning bolts, which made him so powerful that no one could stand against him. The Titans were soon beaten, and Zeus banished nearly all of them to Tartarus, where he set the 100-armed monsters to guard them. Prometheus and Epimetheus, the only two Titans who had supported Zeus, were allowed to go free. But Atlas, the strongest of the Titans, was sent to the far ends of the earth so that he could carry the weight of the heavens on his shoulders forever. The volcano monster. When Gaia learned that Zeus had trapped her Titan children in Tartarus, she shook with rage, and out of her raging body there appeared two great and horrible monsters, called Typhon and Echidna. Echidna had been a woman's head and arms, but her body was like an enormous fat snake covered in warty spots and spines. Typhon had 100 heads, each one dripping with venom and slime. When he roared like 100 lions, or trumpeted like a herd of elephants, great rivers of boiling mud and fiery stones poured out of his mouths. When the gods saw him, they were so frightened that they turned themselves into animals and ran far away to hide in the woods. Typhon tore up enormous mountains by the roots, and he hurled them at Zeus and his brothers and sisters, hissing like 1,000 snakes. But Zeus was brave, and he called to the other gods to come and help him defeat the monster. Soon a fierce battle raged over the earth, and everything was destroyed. The gods were tired out and nearly beaten. But as Typhon lifted Mount Etna to throw at Zeus's head, Zeus let fly one of his thunderbolts and knocked the mountain down on Typhon's head, trapping him forever. Echidna fled to a cave in southern Greece when she saw how Zeus had destroyed her mate. There she had her many children, all as hideous as herself, and Zeus allowed them to live in peace, so that the future heroes of Greece could fight them when the time was right. As for Typhon, he lies wriggling and struggling under Mount Etna to this day, spewing smoke and flames out of the top, and raining down boiling stones on the poor people of Sicily. The boy who fell out of the sky. King Minos of Crete was furious. He was seething. He was bubbling with rage. "Bring me Daedalus," he cried. Daedalus was the king's inventor, and he had designed an impossible maze to keep the king's minotaur, a horrible bull monster, safe. Now the monster was dead, the king's only daughter had fled, and Minos wanted someone to blame. So Daedalus was dragged before King Minos' feet in chains, and after the king had kicked him and jumped on him, he was taken to the highest room in the highest tower in the palace at Knossos, and locked in with his son Icarus, who was 10. They had no food and no water, and soon they were desperately hungry and thirsty. But Daedalus was very clever, and soon he had a plan of escape. He made Icarus climb up into the roof where there was a big old deserted bee's nest. Icarus took all the honeycombs and threw them down to his father. Then he stole the tail feathers from all the pigeons who were sleeping in the rafters and threw them down too. When they had licked some dew off the window sills and sucked out some honey from the combs, Daedalus melted the beeswax by shining a ray of sun through a magnifying glass he had in his pocket, and made 4 big wing shapes out of it. Then, while it was still soft, he pressed the pigeon's feathers into it. He made leather straps from his belt and sandals, and then they were ready. Daedalus and Icarus strapped their wings onto their shoulders, climbed onto the windowsill, and leapt out into the air. It was quite dark apart from a few blazing stars, so no one could see them from the ground. "Whee!" shouted Icarus as he swept through the sky. "I can fly! Look, Dad, I can fly!" "Keep going west," yelled Daedalus, flapping alongside, "and remember not to fly too high. If the sun catches you when he gets up, he will melt your wings and you'll fall." Icarus was having such a good time he didn't listen. He swooped up to the stars and pulled Sirius's tail. When he swooshed round the Great Bear, he didn't notice Helios, the sun god, driving his great chariot up over the eastern horizon behind him. Helios cracked his whip, and fiery rays of sunshine darted across the sky. One of them touched Icarus's wings, and the beeswax ran like rain down into the ocean far below. A feather brushed Icarus's cheek as he tumbled helplessly to the sea beneath, crying out for his father to save him. Poor Daedalus could only watch and weep for his lost son as he flew on towards Sicily. As his tears fell into the ocean, they were caught by the Nereids and made into pearls of wisdom. And the grandmothers who know say that Icarus's spirit rises up from the sea every night and flies up to the heavens to play with the stars. And that is where we end our story.